blame me. I forgot some things and I had to go all the way back home and pick them up. But anyway, welcome to the fall edition of the Ground Zero Lounge. Glad you guys could all make it. You know, hey, we finally got some rain. We need it. But who's first time people? Whoa, we got quite a few. Great. Excellent. Excellent. Well, the Ground Zero Lounge is something very unique. Clyde started doing this years ago over at Dante's off Burnside, and it's very successful. And we got to revive it about 2.5 years ago, thanks to Steve from the Paradise Bar. Give them a hand. Thank you, Steve. Anyway, the Ground Zero Lounge is something, like I said, very unique. Clyde sort of combines the parapolitical and the paranormal together in a very deep and esoteric way, but in a very entertaining way as well. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you Clyde Lewis of Ground Zero.
Thank you, Ron. They're giving me another microphone so I can like play. Yeah, okay, there we go. Something. Alrighty. God, I'm so glad you guys are here tonight. Give yourself a round of applause again, because I love the sound of clapping. And hey, I want to let you know if I'm a little rusty tonight, it's not because I've been drinking, it's just because I haven't done this in a while. I've been so busy. We've been all over the country. We went to California. We did some stuff out in California. We went to ECETI. I don't know, anybody went to ECETI this year? It was a few people have been there. It was interesting, only that it was cloudy and I didn't see any UFOs. I was pretty disappointed, but most of the time when you go up there, there are plenty of UFOs to see and plenty of things to talk about. And you know, I think the only thing that really stood out for me is my wife Janine was there. It was amazing. She's recovering and she's doing well. She'll probably be here later tonight. And we were there, and yes, thank you, my wife. For those of you that know, she just had surgery, and she's doing well, cancer surgery, and she's doing really well. But we went up there, and it was amazing because, you know, Janine is so, I don't know, she's got such a sweetheart, and it was so cloudy that day we were up there, and she showed up, and she took me out near the goats, and she said to me, she said, you know, we're going to wait here until the sky parts so we can see some sunshine. And we waited for a while, and sure enough, the sky parted, and we saw sunshine. I go, how'd you do that? and then, of course, at night, we went and saw the moon. And the funny thing is that, you know, I think most of the time, we take for granted some of the things like sunshine and moon, and when you're up there, you can actually be introspective of a lot of things that are simple and beautiful about life. And how complicated the technocracy wants to make things for all of us. And I have really, I mean, the past week, well actually, going on for 2 weeks now, the media, or at least the news sources that I use, the clip agencies that I use, there hasn't been really that many stories about the paranormal. And the reason why is because it seems that all of the political theater and the ugliness of the sex scandals and the weaponized sexual allegations and all these things are taking precedent because it is capturing everybody and it's pitting them to TV and it's pitting them to other things when they should be concerned about what is going on outside the political realm. And I remember back when I first started Ground Zero, 1995, and many times when we speculated about aliens, UFOs, disclosure, confirmation, all of these things, we would read things like Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. And Cooper had this idea that he said things like, well, they're going to reveal to us the truth about aliens, but the thing is, people are going to be so caught up in something else that no one is going to hear it. And when it happens, it's going to happen as a surprise to everybody, even though scientists and others have been declaring this in the media that's seldom heard. And, you know, back then I was thinking, well, what could be so distracting? What could be so distracting to take us away from the reality of extraterrestrial confirmation? And now I'm learning what it is. I'm learning that, and I did a whole topic about this on my show, I'm learning that it's the power of exclusion. That it's not what the media is telling you, it's what the media is not telling you. It's what the media does not wish to report. And one of the things that they're not reporting, unless of course you get into specialty programming, is they're not reporting about how, as cliche as it sounds, the future is happening now. And I know that sounds, it's about as cliche as saying, the truth is out there. You know, all the music starts up and so the truth is out there. Mulder, Scully, the truth is out there. That's so old now, because the truth is not out there, the truth is right here, the truth is in you, okay? You know, and you don't need a government to tell you that there's something out there, all right? The truth shall set, what'd you say? The truth shall set you free, is that what you said? The truth shall set you free over here, but it'll piss you off first. It usually does. The truth will set you free, but it pisses you off in the process. And one of the biggest frustrations I have is that before it was, listen to me, it's gonna happen, listen to me. You know, I felt like that guy in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Kevin McCarthy. They're out here! They're here now! And that was me back in, what, 1995? And now it's me going, well, they're here now. And no one's listening. I wonder why. Kavanaugh, Ford. That's why. Bill Cosby. That's why. Me Too. Black Lives Matter. I could go down the list of all these collective groups that are using victimhood as a form of currency. And we're all caught up in this political stuff that we forget that there's a life beyond it. There's a life beyond it that needs to be explored, and that life is creeping up on us. And I was just laughing about, with some listeners over here, I was laughing about the fact that when I came into work, 3 or 4 days ago, my program director and the consultant set me down and said, how are you gonna talk about, you know, all this stuff that you talk about, and how are you gonna cleverly talk about the Kavanaugh Ford thing? How are you going to cleverly talk about Bill Cosby? And I said, I'm not. And I'm going, but you're going to offend your P1 listeners who listen in for what you have to say on certain subjects. I go, this subject I don't want to talk about. Okay, and I made it clear. I said, no, not going to talk about it. Just not going to talk about it. So I went into my office, I sat down in front of the computer, and I thought to myself, okay, I'll talk about it. But, I decided that I wasn't going to make it the full topic of the show. What I was going to say was that with all this stuff going on with Me Too and all this other stuff, men are running to have sex with robots. Yeah. Now, I know it sounds icky. I mean, believe me, I've gotten all, how do they clean the hole out? I get that all the time. That was the question I got, no kidding. I talk about this, and the only thing they can drum up to send me on Facebook is, how are they going to clean the hole out? And I'm thinking, I'm eating. You know, I'm having lunch in front of my computer. No, I don't want to talk about it. I'm going, I don't want to talk about that. But I mean, they put up a good point. I mean, they clean the hole out. Who? And how many people have seen these by applause? These robot dolls they're talking about by applause. Have anybody seen them? They look real, real enough to look like corpses. And yeah, yay for necrophilia, the weaker sex. I'm gonna get shit for that one. But yeah, it's it looks like a corpse, And like I said, you know, here's the deal. If you're a guy that wants to have sex with a fantasy robot that talks like a GPS, good luck. Because that's the thing, they all sound like GPS people. Turn right here, ooh, don't touch that there, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I mean, come on. That's a GPS having an orgasm. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah.
Signal, turn left.
Yeah, signal, turn left. Don't go there. Don't touch that. Avoid the mountains. Avoid the canyon. What? Make a U-turn. That's with the tongue, stupid. You don't do that unless you use the tongue. Anyway, we're getting really raunchy because we're talking about sex with robots. But I decided that, you know, I thought that that was very important. And the biggest problem that I found when I was talking about robot sex was that while they just opened a brothel in Houston, the first one in the United States, they've opened a brothel in Houston. Yeah, was it? A robo-brothel or a ro-brothel, yeah. The biggest problem was that, you know, the idea of objectifying women was one of the problems, but the biggest problem was that why would anyone want to do this? And why, you know, and most of it were the women that were against it. And when I brought up the fact that there are happy toys that women can use, the women started going, oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that, you know, the robots will be cumbersome. Women have it easy. We have to have a whole robot that looks like a mannequin or something. I don't know why. But it got into the idea that, once again, we are losing our humanity. Little by little, we are losing our humanity because, you know, I don't understand. I guess, you know, maybe if I was 17, I'm sitting down because my knees aren't happy. If I was 17 and just like everything to me looked like something to have sex with, I guess I would have sex with a doll or with a robot or something. I don't know. And even then, I don't think so. But, you know, it does help people. But I can see the problem with the humanity aspect. I can see the problem with a lot of things we do. And I think the reason why we're so apt and so willing to allow ourselves to maybe have sex with a robot or, you know, there's always the washing machine. No, it's not feminism. I think the reason why we're like this is because we're treating each other like machines. We're treating, yeah, you can applaud that. We're treating each other like machines. We really are. We're expecting from people what the machines are expecting from us. We have a social network that is not run by human beings. I mean, you think that Zuckerberg's there all day long going, oh, I'm watching my Facebook, yay. No, he's not doing that. He's sitting back having barbecues in Malibu while everybody else is kind of like watching to make sure there's no shutdowns or lockdowns or anything else like that. Algorithms are running Facebook. And algorithms are directing how you think, what you say, and what you choose. Algorithms are shaping our culture. And even though you don't get on the internet, and even though you may not have access to the internet, you will be, within the next 3 to 5 years, subjected to what is called the Internet of Things. And what that is 5G networks moving into your area, smart city networks. You're going to have your refrigerator talking to your toaster. You're going to have milk that talks to your refrigerator. Everything is going to talk to everything. And one day you're going to have a delivery bot show up at your door and drop off eggs and milk and cheese because your refrigerator called Safeway and said, hey, make a delivery. Huh? Black Mirror. Yes, give her a hand for that. It is, it's Black Mirror. By the way, that's required watching for all Ground Zero listeners. It's on Netflix. It's a Channel 4 presentation. Everybody should watch Black Mirror. It is the Twilight Zone of tech. And it is a technical nightmare hell that they always paint as to what these problems will have. Anything from electronic bees that pollinate things because the bees are dying to your products talking to one another, to having sex with robots, or even able to resurrect someone, we were talking about that. I mean, everything that I'm talking about lately is like an episode of Black Mirror. And it's scaring me because, I mean, all the way down to, well, one of the biggest ones that I thought was peculiar, and I didn't understand why they did it, was the social credit show called Nosedive. How many people have seen Nosedive by applause? A couple people. Nosedive, when I first saw it, thought, this is unbelievable. Is this what we're going to do in the future? And what it was a social credit system where no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're always being watched and policed by someone else. And the way they watch and police you is that they have on their cell phone something called the National Credit System. And it's a system of good behavior. And if someone, like for example, cuts you off in traffic, you find out what their phone is, and you basically down them so many credits. And if you have a certain amount of credits, you can travel, you can buy stuff, you can get travel incentives, you can do all kinds of things. If it's too low, you don't get to do anything. Okay? Now, many of you have thought about chips and the mark of the beast and the numbers and all that stuff. Well, this is pretty much what it is. It's a number that you get for your behavior. And it's required by law that you have it. Now, in China right now, it is not mandatory, but people are volunteering doing it. It will be in place by 2020. There is a project right now called Dragonfly. Have you heard of Dragonfly? Anybody listen to the program? You heard of Project Dragonfly? Dragonfly is a project that Google is doing with China, which has already wiped out 4,000 websites that the government has deemed inappropriate for people to look at, including websites that criticize the government. Now, for those of you that don't know, Facebook actually has something that you don't know about called the scale of hate. And what the scale of hate is that every single one of you has a Facebook page actually is on your hate scale. Whether or not you spread stuff that is, anti-government, whether you spread stuff that's an well, basically, I'll just say it, anti-democrat. It's pretty much Silicon Valley flexing its non-objective muscles on everybody, saying that you will comply to what we tell you to comply to. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's screaming, my free speech is being violated. No, it's not. No, it really isn't. You sign up for Facebook, you have no free speech. You sign up for Twitter, you have no free speech. You go in knowing it's a forum where you can express yourself, but there's something called terms of service. And every time you join a site like this, you are signing, you read a little box that said agreement? Nobody reads the agreement. You read the agreement? Okay. So you know about that clause where they take your firstborn if you violate? Oh, you're not on Facebook? Okay. You know about that they also, if you violate some code or something, they will strap a soprano to your back, and you have to walk around with them singing hallelujah the whole day? Okay. I'm just kidding. No, there's so many things they put in the agreement that you're like thinking, it's a binding contract. It is. It's legally binding, and when people, and I told Alex Jones this, because when I was on the Alex Jones show, and when I was talking with him on my show, I said, Alex, you need to curb that idea that they're silencing your freedom of speech, because there are terms of service that, they think that you're violating, and I know it's unfair, and I know it's shitty what they're doing to you, but, you're going to have to find yourself, making your own Facebook and making your own stuff. And that sucks because, some of it is happening to me right now. I don't know how many people go to my Facebook page, Ground Zero Facebook page, but from what I'm understanding, my listeners are telling me this, they're getting polls sent to them. And the poll is, what do you think of Clyde Lewis in Ground Zero? Is he offensive, non-offensive? And then pops up, should we block his page? Should we shadow ban his page? Should we go in and remove things from his newsfeed? So I'm already under the gun with this. And it's because of my associations and my relationships and the fact that most of the radio stations that I broadcast on are conservative. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter anymore what you say, it's the appearances. It's how you keep up appearances and how you're looked at by people and what people think of you. And so every little thing you do now is under the microscope. And it's not just because I'm a public figure. It's because everybody now is under the microscope. And it's because, as people like Orwell had said, or people like H.G. Wells have said about the future, is that soon people will be incentivized to turn in people to the authorities. That means they'll pay you. That means they'll do things to entice or enhance the possibility that you would be more than likely turning in your friends for simple offenses. You will go to like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, and if you have something against somebody, you'll make a big deal out of it. You will use it as a weapon, and this is what we're in right now. And what's sad about it is that it reminded me of when I lived in South America during the Dirty War. But they didn't have the internet back then. What they had were people so paranoid that you couldn't say hello to anybody on the street, because they thought that you were an agent and that you would take that information or whatever is said to you, and the postman, the milkman, anybody could be an agent for the government, and anybody could turn you in, and you get a knock at the door at 3 a.m., they take you away, and you're never seen again. We don't do that in America that I know of so far, but what we do is we do what the Soviet Union used to do, and we erase people. We erase people that don't agree with us. We demand that people that don't agree with us, that they get eliminated, regardless of due process. Okay? And, I mean, I know what I believe about this country. And I know what this country is capable of. And I know that we all talk about freedom, and we all talk about Constitution, and we all talk about these things. But putting them into the practice of what Americans should do is not happening. And it's because of the fact that the machines are running the show. The machines are basically running its governance through algorithms. And it's amazing because it's like when you get on your computer sometimes and you type in a sentence and the computer finishes it for you, and that's exactly what you wanted to find on the internet. That's an algorithm. That's an algorithm that's been paying attention to what you do, and they know what you do. And if you have a what do they call those, Google assistants in the house, that thing's always listening to you. And so if you're talking about pizza, you say to your wife, "Oh, I think I'm going to order pizza, honey. I think I'm going to order pizza." The minute you go to the computer and you type in P, it'll go, pizza, Domino's, pizza. It'll give you a list of all the pizzas you want to eat. It's like it was reading your mind. You didn't tell the computer you wanted pizza. You just hit P and immediately knew you wanted pizza. That's scary, okay? That's scary because they can outthink you. Now, think about how that's going to be with 5G, which is fifth generation power. Right now we're at 4G, and it's very creepy with 4G. With 5G, it's almost like you won't have to say a word, and it'll be there for you. And even if you don't want it, it'll show up. It's just going to be scary. And not only that, but with all of the power and the fog and the smog and electronic power, fog, and smog, our bodies are going to be affected by it. Right now, the FCC has decided that if someone decides to put 5G in a community, all right, they have about a week to decide whether they want it or not. And if they don't decide, then the FCC will decide for you. And I know what they're going to decide for. They're going to decide for, yeah, put it in there. And what that'll be is an antenna almost everywhere carrying the power so that you can get good phone service, so you can get, your house talking to you, get your smart meters working for you, so they can know how much energy you're using and how many carbon credits you're using and all this. This is what they're preparing for, the green economy. And the UN, United Nations, actually in 2015 put out something called the Global Sustainability 2030. And in that seminar and in that gathering, they talked about how they want to make some very drastic political moves to make every country comply with a green economy, which is basically socialism light in a lot of respects, because what they're going to do is they're going to go in and they'll have to eliminate jobs, they'll have to move people to the cities, they'll have to do a lot of things so they can keep track of them, especially in their consumption of resources. And so food monitored, water monitored, everything. And even though, you know, I'm talking about it now, so it'll never happen here, the thing is, it's already on the ready. And by 2020, I think we're really going to be seeing these things happen. Tonight, I have here my book, Transhuman Substantiation. I'm selling it after I talk. I started writing that book in 2016. Already, you can see all the things I predicted have come true, but already, I'm already feeling like I have to write another book. And the reason why is because everything has happened so quickly. Because I remember back in 2016 when everybody was talking about Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and fighting over politics and all this stuff, and I said to them, actually I said to my audience, I said, you know what's really sad about the elections right now is that it's 2016 and that by 2020 the world is going to be a different place. And what I mean by that is innovations are going to be so advanced that we're not going to know what to do, because we have all these things in front of us, and the technocrats are going to force us into using things we wouldn't normally use, into adapting to certain things we wouldn't normally adapt to. And I said, why aren't they discussing things like, well, rules for robots? Why don't they start discussing things that while robots are going to take the jobs of a lot of people in this country, what are they going to do to supply people with money so they can continue living without having to worry about a robot taking their job? And I talked about the floor wage, and I said, you know, in many countries where jobs are taking, where robots are taking jobs, they give people a basic income. It's called a universal basic income, which is kind of, you know, the government handing you $2,000 or $3,000 a month just so you can survive, and you don't have to do a thing. You don't have to work. You don't have to do anything because your job was taken by a machine. And that would include many truck drivers, that include taxi drivers, that include airplane pilots. I mean, soon, you know, your flights are not going to be flown by pilots. It's going to be by machines. Cab rides are going to be by machines. Trucks right now, some are in Las Vegas that are actually with no drivers. And with all of this, somebody is going to lose, or we're going to have a robot war. In this country has not addressed the artificial intelligence threat. I was, when I did my show last night about synthetic intelligence and the aliens, I actually stumbled upon an article where somebody had talked about, a number of scientists are talking about both aliens and AI. And they're saying, you know, not very many people are talking about aliens anymore, really, because their threat now is not aliens, but AI. The biggest threat to this country, the biggest threat to this world is artificial intelligence. And I would caution, and that's why even though we laugh about robot sex, I would caution people that, you know, while many of our innovations are going to be good to make our lives easier, one of the things it's going to do is it's going to find a way to destroy our humanity. Already, Facebook has ruined our social cohesion because the way we treat each other. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but people are more angry now. People are more willing to tell you what they don't like rather than what they like. And I always tell people, you will always call somebody or you'll always file a complaint, but when was the last time you told somebody you loved them? When was the last time you told somebody that you really liked what they do? When was the last time we encouraged people to do better rather than cutting them down if they were trying? We don't even allow trying. What's that?
We love you, buddy.
Thanks. Thank you so much. But see, that's something that we're turning into. We're turning into a society that we want something to make our decisions for us. And literally, we're handing things over to the algorithms. We're handing things over to the machines. And literally, when you really think about it, when these machines start getting intelligence, massive intelligence, we're talking super intelligence, they're not going to want us around. Right. And with what little they have now, I don't think they want us around. Because the technocrats, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Henry Kissinger, and all these guys have put together the future for all of us. There's a book called The Technotronic Era. You may want to read it. I think it's very expensive to get now. But it just basically lays out for everybody what the future is going to be. And that is, they basically said that once the technology advances, they don't care about the older people. All they care about is getting that technology in the hands of the younger people. And by the time they get their information at the end of their hand, think about this. What is the first thing a kid sees when he wakes up in the morning, and what is the last thing he sees when he goes to bed at night? Cell phone. Cell phone. In 1984, George Orwell, Big Brother controlled the populace with something called telescreens. Every single person got their information from the government from the telescreens. At any time the government wanted to say something or ask for compliance, they would talk about it through the telescreens. And they would interrupt games. They would interrupt things on the phones. They would interrupt not the phones, but I just saw the phone, I thought phones. They interrupted the screens to bake their information and to have their 2 minutes of hate, and wheeled out Emmanuel Goldstein, and everybody after their 2 minutes of hate had therapy. It was kind of cathartic for them. But here's the deal that's really funny and creepy. As ironic as this sounds, and as coincidental as it may sound, on October 3rd, next month, the government is going to be able to take over your cell phone. And they're going to send an emergency broadcast over your phone telling you of an impending disaster. Okay? And for those that are unaware of it, they're going to be shocked because it's supposed to look like the real thing. It's supposed to look like the real thing. And so be prepared for that. Be prepared for that. And the reason why I think it's kind of spooky is because they were going to do it last week, but because of Florence, they said we can't do it. Well, here's the deal. If Florence is what is keeping them from doing the emergency, then what's going on is they were waiting for the right moment to do it again, because there may be something that could go live. There may be something that could happen that is really going on, and they do have to break in and get into your phones. Maybe perhaps communications are shut down, satellites go down, and certain satellites take out communication for television. What are they going to do? They're going to break into your little telescreen you have in your hand, and you're going to be able to hear what's going on, get the news and information on your phone rather than getting it on your TV. And what's really odd too is, I don't know, anybody a fan of American Horror Story Apocalypse? A few people are. Do you remember when the bombs came down in the first episode? What was it that happened? They got the information on their cell phones. They didn't get on TV. TV came after the cell phones. So an emergency broadcast came down the cell phone from the president. Now that show was recorded and taped before the announcement that they were going to have the power to do that with every phone. Predictive programming? Yeah. But see, it was like, you know, in Hawaii, where the information went out about the emergency, and everybody thought it was fake. Then a lot of people said it wasn't fake, that something did come in and they shot it out of the sky. But see, we'll never know, because we only know what they don't exclude. The only things you know every day are what the media gives you. Everything else is excluded. So unless you dig, and unless you have your own form of study, 1 hour, I would say, if you want to be healthy-minded, take 1 hour out of your day for personal reflection and personal study. That means that you use that time to find peace with yourself, or you use that time to go beyond the mainstream and find out what else is going on. Even if it means listening to Ground Zero for an hour. And I don't mean that because I'm promoting my... I mean that because we have gotten to a point where we're beginning to surf through the information and finding that information before anyone else gets to it. And lately my consultants have been like, wow, you've been on the money for the past 2 or 3 weeks. I think I'm getting the groove, until something sets me back again. But you get into a groove and you start seeing how it's going back and forth, kind of like how the algorithms go back and forth, and you're pretty much figuring it out. You're pretty much figuring where people are going with this, okay? And in fact, I said to one of my producers the other day, I was talking, Bobo is my producer in LA, and after the show was over, I said, you realize that Kavanaugh is going to be approved, but what will happen is there'll be a last-minute ditch effort to basically stay and not vote. I told him this. And he says, why would they do that? And I says, because something's going to happen where they'll have to stall the vote. And when they stall it, they'll stall it for about 3 weeks, and then they'll come back and vote. Well, I was wrong about the 3 weeks, but something did try to stall the vote, installing the vote now, so we have 1 week before we find out that whether or not Kavanaugh becomes a Chief Justice. But I'm thinking that if Kavanaugh gets approved, what do you think is going to happen to this country? There'll be riots. So on October 3rd, I think you should be ready for anything. Okay? Now, I could be wrong about this, but, the timing seems to be, in favor of the idea that because I heard it tonight before I came in, I was listening to the reporters and they were saying something to the effect, this has really torn the country apart more so than the elections did. And they keep saying over and over, this has really torn the country apart more than the elections did. And you saw what happened when Trump was elected president. And you saw all these groups rising up like Antifa and all the women gathering together in the public square and all this stuff happening. This is something that is far worse, and it's torn the country apart far worse than the election has. And I kept hearing that over and over and over again. And then when I said to Bo the other day, and I said to him, Bo, I said, I have a feeling they're going to delay this. And if they delay it, they're going to wait up until the point that there will be a bad thing go down, and they will notify everybody. And Bobo goes, well, what about that emergency broadcast that's supposed to happen on the 3rd of October at 2:38 Eastern Time? And I said, shit. Now, once again, because I know this is being recorded for posterity, and they'll play that Clyde's such an idiot, he said, it could go anyway. But I'm basically stressing the timing. I'm indicating the timing, how everything seems to go. And as I was always saying this when I do the show, timing is everything. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said, he said, if it happens in government, it was planned that way. So whatever happens, it was already planned what was going to happen. And they know that whatever happens, there'll be chaos. And, beyond that, what's coming in the next year? What's coming in the next year? And besides, I also said on the Alex Jones show and everywhere else, I said that there's going to be a final blow event that will take place that will certainly shake our nation, and I think we should be preparing for it. So no matter what it is, and I told him it was a biological attack, and after I told him that, we had all the planes coming in with all the diseased people, we have mosquitoes everywhere, and encephalitis is breaking out, eastern equine encephalitis is breaking out everywhere, and I remember when I was doing Contact in the Desert in the Clyde X show, I talked about things like equine encephalitis. I talked about things like some disease that was a hemorrhaging encephalitis that's in India. All these para-influenza, para-disease type diseases. And I said, well, it just seems to me they're preparing for something, maybe a biological attack somewhere, or you hear what's going on with the Skripal thing in England and Russia, and the Novichok and all this stuff. And I just said, it just seems to me it's building for some sort of pandemic, epidemic, some sort of biological attack or whatever. And the thing about biological attacks is we don't know that they've happened until after people start getting sick with something that they don't understand what it is. And so remember to keep October 3rd in mind, because that's when the test is. And keep in mind that with this investigation, it's supposed to go for a week? It may not go for a week. It may be just a couple days. They're talking Wednesday? What does the 3rd fall on?
Wednesday.
Oh, so it goes on it'll go through on the 3rd. Shit.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you heard it. There are people predicting that the whole Kavanaugh decision will come down on Wednesday, October 3rd. What if it comes down on like 2:38 p.m. Eastern time? Oh, well, I don't know if they're going to do martial law, but you can imagine, especially here in Oregon, you know, what really sucks about living here, at least what has sucked about living here, is that I have to plan my day around riots. Yeah, you have to look at your calendar and say, I don't think I can make it today. There's a riot over here. The communists are meeting at the city hall. I think I'll go. Oh, I can't do that. I'm sorry. Antifa is beating up people. Don't want to do that. And then, of course, we got Proud Boys over here. We got Patriot Prayer over there. I go down the list of all these people that, you know, they're having their demonstrations, and it blocks traffic, and it just, you know, I guess I'm a practical old man because all I care about is the traffic. Traffic's gonna suck. Not that people are standing up for their rights, but traffic's gonna suck. But, you know, and the thing that sucks about it too is I have to kind of, you know, I have to stay in a hotel away from my family. That's happened before. We've been downtown and the smell of tear gas is in the air, and Ron and I have to like kind of duck out, and we have to go find some place to sleep because we can't go home because we're on the other side of the river and our families are on the other side of the river or whatever. I mean, this is pretty bad. So I don't know. You know, now I'm getting a little scared about October 3rd because I didn't even know that all that was falling on that due date. So yeah, be ready, be prepared for anything on October 3rd. If that's the date that the Kavanaugh decision comes down, I can understand why people will probably go crazy. And if that's the case, I can understand why they're going to be breaking into phones and saying, this is an actual emergency. Please duck and cover. How much time do I have? I feel like I've breezed through. How am I doing? Oh, questions time? Okay, you gonna run with the microphone? It's time for question time. Ding dong, ding dong, ding. All right, they're gonna roam with a microphone. So raise your hand, and Ron will shove the microphone in your face, and we'll do some discussion. I'm gonna have a little sip. We're gonna turn that microphone on.
Hello.
There we go. Okay, we got the microphone on. So go ahead and motion Ron, and we'll put the microphone out there. If you have any questions, you want to bring up something. Oh, Angelique will. Okay, so Angelique's going to do it. Here we go.
Can you tie all these things that are going on back into the Georgia Guidestones commandments?
Where are you at? Oh, okay, right here. The Georgia Guidestones. Well, yeah, I mean, when you can look at how they want 500 million left, that's a lot of people they want to wipe out. But there are many ways that they're going to do this, and if you look back at what Henry Kissinger had to say in 1974 about his documents, and when you see what they say in the Project for the New American Century, basically improving our nation's defenses, there are programs for what are known as induced famine, induced pestilence, induced droughts. That would be with weather control and what have you. And then the Project for the New American Century said, well, we need a new Pearl Harbor. Well, they already got that with 9/11. And then after that, they said, well, biological weapons where they can actually use genetic markers to wipe out people, that's our next step. And that's already what they're doing with 23andMe and Ancestry, is they're collecting all this DNA data. And, you know, they'll be able to use, and Pfizer just, I guess, bought, or no, GlaxoSmithKline just actually made a deal with Ancestry.com to actually use the DNA that people have sent in there so they can make experimental drugs, so they can target certain individuals and certain DNA and RNA strands. So, I mean, that's the future. We live in this future where it's just as easy to take a nutrient to stay alive, and it's just as easy to find a scientist in a rogue lab somewhere that's ready to cut up some DNA and make a monster that can kill everybody. And those monsters are usually diseases. They're not real monsters with claws. They're bacteria with things that cannot be killed off with an antibiotic. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah. Do you believe that Henry Ford was the original conspiracy theorist?
I don't think so. The founding fathers were the original conspiracy theorists. I mean, they were, right? They wanted to conspire against the king, and they did, and that's why we're here. This whole country is based on a conspiracy. And I'm sure the Tories had theories, I'm sure everyone else had theories, but no, I don't think Henry Ford was the original conspiracy theorist. No.
Hi, Clyde. Actually, I have two questions.
Okay.
One is, do you still believe that the United States government is going to finally admit that there is other life in the universe other than just us in the next 6 months to a year? And do you believe that we may get involved in a military conflict where they're going to have to finally admit that the TR-3B?
No and yes. No, because I don't think the government, I think what the government will do is they will respond, they won't admit. And that's why we have Space Force, is because, Space Force! We have Space Force because Space Force is a response, it's not an admission, okay? And I believe the confirmation is far more powerful than disclosure. And I think that I don't understand, and I'm always the asshole at the UFO conventions, because I'm the guy saying, screw disclosure, I already know they exist. And so do you. So why the hell do you need the government to tell you? I mean, you know, what governments do is they don't tell you, and then when they see the people going, you know, getting all worked up about it, they use it. They use it as a way to bring people together, just like Reagan said. I mean, think about it. Moses said to Pharaoh, there's a God. Pharaoh said, screw you. Moses said, I'll prove there's a God. Moses gets the 10 Commandments. Moses brings the plagues. Moses brings all this. And finally Pharaoh says, well, maybe we should reconsider this whole God thing with Moses. Okay? Same thing with Jesus. I'm the Son of God. Romans say, no, you're not. You're an idiot. Oh, no, I'm the Son of God. Oh, no, you're an idiot. Then they say, well, we're going to kill this idiot. So they kill him. And then they say, well, you know what? Our empire's falling apart. Maybe we should reconsider this Jesus guy. And that's exactly what they did when they brought together the Roman Catholic Church. They did that to do that as well, to say, well, we're reconsidering it all. So what we're doing now is, oh man, those people who believe in UFOs are real weirdos. You know, they're tinfoil hat people, all this. And then one day they'll say, you know, maybe we should reconsider this whole alien thing. And they're already doing it, because when the New York Times put out their article back in December, that wasn't for the believers, okay? And I found this out when I was in Contact with the Desert, because Peter Levenda had said, well, that wasn't for the believers. That was for the small percentage that don't believe, okay? Because everybody else is a believer. I mean, because I remember when I was at the Contact with the Desert, they talked about how it was in the New York Times where this first appeared. And everybody goes, boo, the New York Times, liberal asshole group, And they said, but don't knock it. You have a newspaper like the New York Times that has a lot of credibility that's printing that the government was involved, or the Pentagon was involved in an investigation into the threat assessment of UFOs. That's admitting that there are UFOs to contend with. That's admitting that aliens, and the show I did last night, how many people heard the show I did last night? Yeah, okay. The show I did last night even blew me away, because now scientists are saying, well, you know, extraterrestrial life, biological, is all well and good. We haven't found anything that would prove biological, but we're getting these signals now, and they're these fast radio bursts, and they have to be sent to us by machines or something else. What if the aliens that everybody says they've been seeing are basically synthetic intelligence? And I went, are you kidding me? They're finally saying that maybe the alien greys are not biological entities, but synthetic intelligence. And that's another way of knowing. But the government isn't going to say anything about it. Science is going to say a lot about it. People like me are going to say a lot about it. But that's about as far as it's going to go. Because I don't think the government will respond before they disclose. So look for a response probably in the next year or two. Because I was saying that, I said that 2017 would be the year of confirmation, and it was. They finally confirmed it at the end of 2017 that yes, they were tracking these UFOs. and that people in Congress were putting money towards the investigation by the Pentagon. So yeah, I don't think any more years from now we're going to get any disclosure. We're going to get a lot of response from Space Force. That's what's going to happen. Okay, over there, yes.
When you say they're going to open or do the whole or everybody's cell phone thing, don't they already do that with the Amber Alerts?
Yes, but this is on a larger scale. This is where the government's going to be able to take over the phone. You know, Amber Alerts are local. This is a national. This is the first time they've tested a national alert system where they will shut down the phones if need be, or shut down communication if need be. And what's really interesting is they've tested this type of stuff before. I remember something happened in San Francisco where people were rallying on the phones. They were able to shut down cell service in some parts of Oakland and San Francisco to try to keep the gangs down. They also did it with Arab Spring. They were organizing Arab Spring by using the phones, and they found a way to actually shut down the phone systems so that nobody could organize. So, I mean, they've been testing this all over the world, but finally they have the power to just go, and you're done. It's over. No more phone, at least until they can control the communication systems. Yes? What's that? Yeah, it could be a blackout, or it could be that... I remember when everything went to digital. It was actually, I went and I took a tour up at this big antenna that's up here on the hill, up in the West Hills, up at the cemetery. And they have a whole area there where they have all the channels monitored. And then there was something called the military channel. And I said, the military channel? He goes, yeah, the military channel. I go, what's this? He says, this is what we go to if there's an emergency. We just flip off everything and go straight to the military channel. And I think some people, when they're cable, on the basic cable, they get the military channel. So, and it's just, you know, basically watching, you know, tanks roll in and planes fly over and American flag waving and all that. But, you know, it's just there for open channel for the president, open channel for the Department of Defense or for the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah. Somebody back there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so during the 9/11 attacks, I think we all know there was a bunch of things that were going drill-wise. But we didn't time. So now that we're in an era where we look more into this kind of stuff, when they're going to shut the phones down on October 3rd, you're kind of the guy in the know, I would assume, more than any of us. What's the talk? Like, what's the buzz out there? Like, what's the drill for? You know what I mean? Because, I mean, they had that bombing in the subways.
Well, we just talked about it, Kavanaugh. The situation is this, and it's because of this lady over here telling me this, and I didn't know. They have delayed the Kavanaugh-Ford decision, okay? They've delayed it, and now the FBI is going to investigate it. On October 3rd, from what I heard, they're going to come down with a decision. I really, really, really don't think that if the decision goes either way, people are going to be happy with the decision. And we may be seeing people in the streets again, just like with the election. So we may have to have the president or anybody else try to bring calm, or at least if something happens where the police want you to shelter in place, they'll be able to have access to the phones on that day to do it. So I would say it could be this, what I'm saying now, or it could be something totally different. Biological attack. Biological attack, that something breaks out in the city where there's a biological attack. And I said that on the Alex Jones show. But see, there are a number of things. There's not one, I mean, look, I'm not a strategist. I'm not in the know with DHS. I just look at the things that are happening around the story. I can't pinpoint the time. I can only give windows, and I've given windows before. But when you look at April, March and April, in the spring, there are windows where things happen. Last year, it was the shooting in Las Vegas. Okay? I said there would be a major event that would certainly change us, and that shooting in Las Vegas changed a lot for people with guns and security and everything else. It was a year ago, October, that this happened. So we're pretty much due for another blow event where the whole world is going to be paying attention, the whole country is going to be paying attention. I have no idea what it is, but Las Vegas, I think, was enough trauma for 1 month. and now there's something coming for the next month. Is that okay? You got that? Is that good enough? I can't tell. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Clyde.
Hi.
What do you think about all the high school shootings that are going on?
The high school shootings? I think they've kind of toned down. And isn't that interesting? They've kind of toned down. Now, I wonder why. The FBI's not busy and they got other things on their hands, but anytime you see any of these major events with shootings or bombings or what have you, there's always a tie to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Always. Parkland was the last one that had ties to the FBI. And so, yeah, you can go back and read up on all this. Well, even the situation in Las Vegas. Ties to the FBI. The FBI was well aware of the shooter and what he was about to do and the deals that he made and suspicion of child trafficking and all the things that we said that he was a part of. So, yeah, they revealed it. Go ahead over here. See, yeah.
No, I heard that.
You're on. Yeah, go ahead.
I heard that the two biggest cities in the United States, famous for children trafficking, was Miami and Portland.
Yes. Portland, because of I-5. I-5. Portland's number 2, and it's because of I-5. I-5 is a corridor that is easily used. Yeah, it's a corridor that's easily used for trafficking of children. And also sex trafficking, too.
What about my damn soap opera?
What damn soap opera?
Days of Our Lives. They cut up a whole hour because of Kavanaugh.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's hear it for Days of Our Lives. She's pissed off that Days of Our Lives has been preempted by Kavanaugh. I think that's fucking amazing. Yes, it's certainly.
I heard it wasn't just child sex trafficking that here in Portland, they'll take women up to their 50s.
They traffic everybody. Yeah, it's not just kids. It's sexual trafficking as well. Yes, they're body snatchers. It's really sad here.
Reopen those Shanghai tunnels.
Oh yeah. They still use the tunnels. I want to understand. It's not everybody. Go ahead.
About the October 3rd thing again.
Yeah.
It reminds me, it's very reminiscent to me of that movie, The Kingsman, where the tone went off on everybody's cell phone and they started killing each other and going apeshit.
Oh, the cell?
So it makes me not want to have my phone near me on that day, just in case they release something that messes us all up in our
Stephen
heads.
King, right?
Yes.
A Stephen King story. A very bad film, but Stephen King story. My friend Wood Kaufman was in that movie. He's the guy that first goes crazy. He's the guy that runs Trauma Motion Pictures. Yeah. You hear it for Trauma! Trauma fans! Toxic Avenger 4. What's that? The Cell. The Cell. There's 2 cells. One is with Jennifer Lopez, and the other one is John Cusack, Samuel Jackson, I believe. I can't believe I remember that horrible film. But yeah. Anyone else? Won't talk. Want to just talk?
Hey, what do you know about that black goo substance?
The black goo? What?
It's supposed to be like an oil-like substance from some layer in the crust. That
Oh,
has
the black
intelligence,
goo.
and it's like
Yes,
demonic and it moves.
Ryan Gable came on my show and talked about the black goo, and it has a lot of significance throughout literature. There's also talk about the black goo at Mecca, and I think it's actually it's symbolic. But that guy Max Spears, you're Max Spears. He was a paranormal investigator in England. And he said he was about to unveil some satanic pedophile ring in England that he was going to unveil, and a lot of Hollywood stars were supposed to be in it. And apparently he went to his girlfriend's house, doubled over, and he chucked up a bunch of goo, black goo. And so his internal organs were completely dissolved, and he coughed up all this black goo and died. And they still won't unseal the autopsy report. So that's a pretty scary story. Certainly a scary story. So that's all I know about the black goo, but Ryan Gable has written a bunch of stuff about the black goo, but yeah, it's pretty nasty. I think it's a representation of what would be considered a pathogen of some kind, and that's why, of course, they were transmitting it with the bees in the X-Files, and so yeah, it's some sort of pathogen or a representation of a pathogen or something that you don't want in your body at all.
Hi, Clyde.
Hey, what's up?
Not much, but the talk about the encephalitis kind of freaked me out. But I had my own encephalitis, but it was kosher 3 years ago. You remember my story? Correct?
Yes,
And that's crazy. It just freaks me out.
Well, it's crazy, and it freaks me out too, because they were already saying that since the hurricane hit in the Carolinas, they're already getting the swarms of the mosquitoes. And here's something else. Did you guys know that, this is where you say to yourself, oh, the tinfoil hat wearers are not so crazy. Did you hear about the Zika virus? The Zika virus was patented in the 1940s by the Rockefellers for their center. Did you know now they're saying that the Zika virus can cure the cancer that killed John McCain? They're testing it now to see if it would cure the cancer, the brain cancer that killed John McCain. So you know what that tells me? That tells me that they work on these diseases and they work on these maladies in labs, and they release them to do certain things, and then they go back and they change the DNA of them and they release them back to cure cancer, or they release them back to do other things. So it's kind of like this interchangeable disease. You can take a flu virus and force multiply it to where it doesn't hurt people as badly, or they can change it to make it kill people. I mean, you know, it happens all the time in rogue labs all over the world. And so, you know, don't be fooled. They know how to genetically modify a disease to hit certain individuals. Just look at sickle cell anemia, and that affects a lot of black people. And why? Because sickle cell anemia is geared towards certain groups, individuals, races, and certain groups that eat certain types of foods. And it's just weird what they can do with all this technology. It really is. Anyone? Okay, one more over here.
So I have a question.
Sorry.
Do you know anything else about the Antarctica thing, where all the figureheads were going down there and then they just dropped it in the mud and we haven't heard anything about it? But
I was just reading that a satellite photo has just taken what appear to be buildings, what looks like a pyramid and a swastika building down there. It's like something out of Iron Sky, I guess. It's just bizarre. I saw the satellite pictures. That's all I got so far. But I will say again that, you know, I know most of you are exposed to Antarctica because of Corey Goode and David Wilcock. But the truth of the matter is that the life they found on Antarctica, or whatever they're discovering in Antarctica that may be alien, is not a blue bird type creature. It's a small organism that, when they found it in the oxygen levels of Lake Vostok, that they now are convinced with confidence that Enceladus and other moons around Jupiter and Saturn could sustain life. Io, Enceladus, because of the fact they're geothermally heated, and there's a big crust of ice, but they're thinking living below in those conditions, under all that water, are life-giving organisms. So I think you'll hear, if there's ever, not a disclosure, but if there's ever a discovery of life elsewhere, I believe it'll be in the Jovian system. It will not be from Mars. Mars will be the least, or the last on the list to, I mean, the building blocks for life were already said to be on Mars. They didn't come right out and say life on Mars, even though the Gil Levin actually said that there was life on Mars back in '76, I believe. But, you know, I think Enceladus and Io and all the other moons where they're geothermally heated with the water and the ice, kind of like Hoth in Star Wars, I think they're going to find that there's life in the waters of those planets because of the geothermal geysers that they've been monitoring. And so that's my prediction, is that life that they find, or any life at all that they suspect is out there, will be out on the moons of Saturn and Jupiter. So, yes.
Clyde, I always want to recognize you as one of the great journalists in the country. You
Oh,
and
thank
Ron
you.
put these shows together night after night, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Yes, thank you.
You're asking all the questions, and you're exploring all the things that are not reported as you led off. So really appreciate that. Along the lines of, you said about things that they may be testing on the population.
Yeah. Gain of function exercise is what they call it.
Or the bio things that they may be testing.
Right.
Chemtrails and whatnot.
Mhm.
About a week ago, you had a caller, and I wanted to call in. The woman said that we were talking about chemtrails, and she said that she couldn't get over the sense or the smell of lead powder, she said. And it occurred to me that we just had a cat that we put down who had heart failure, and it coincided with the same time that we had given her a flea treatment. I wanted to call in and say this, but I have kids who listen to the show, and I didn't want them to know that we suspect our cat may have died from a flea powder. So that's an example of one way that there may be things in the air. The cat was 4 years old.
Well, and it's funny you should bring that up, because I've had people tell me.
The vets told me that.
China has basically been a villain in this again, where China has been testing things on our animals and literally killing them. You've heard about the deaths at PetSmart?
Yes.
You heard about the deaths at PetSmart? Isn't that weird? And PetSmart's denying that they had anything to do with the deaths. Well, they may not have anything to do with the deaths. Maybe the chemicals that they're using to clean these dogs, or they use in the grooming process, could be from China. And if it's from China, China has been known to send things to this country where our animals have died from using their products.
The vets told me that there's been a real big uprising in the numbers.
Yes.
And not only that, I didn't know this until I took the cat to a vet, that everything's online even for the animals now. So when you go to a vet, they register your cat, it's got all the records in there.
Yeah.
So they're keeping data on these things. And
Yeah.
anything you said about Facebook and the likes and anything that's going by algorithms and numbers, if you think about China and the population, that's all going to happen, and all those trends are going to go toward the Chinese way, right?
Yeah.
Just by numbers.
Well, by numbers alone, and the fact that the ideology seems to be inviting, because the UN says that we're looking at China being the best green economy that's being utilized, that they're able to control the people, keep them under control, keep them happy, keep them equally paid, satisfied, and fed, but human rights violations they don't seem to care about anymore. Whatever they can do to keep it together. And they also keep things like capitalism on a leash, and they even say they're kind of like a democracy now too. It's kind of like we're communism light, or we're socialism light. They want you to believe they're like Canada, but they're not. They're nothing like Canada. Okay, go ahead.
2 years ago, I almost died from pneumonia.
Okay.
I'm 68 years old now. But anyhow, when I got home with all my papers from the
Put it
hospital,
right up to your mouth.
when I got home with all my papers from the hospital, I looked on there and it said, it called what I had community-acquired pneumonia. Now, I've been in healthcare for 150,000 hours, and I thought, that is really strange, because I've heard of bacterial pneumonia, I've heard of pneumococcal, I've heard of bronchial pneumonia. So, the chemtrails were really heavy those months, and it occurred to me intuitively that if they gave this pneumonia, or these pneumonia, and if anybody remembers that year, a lot of people were dying from that.
Yeah.
If they give it a different name, it allows them to track it.
Yes.
See? So,
Well, do you remember,
when we spray chemtrails,
right.
and oh, look at all these people that got, yeah.
Does anybody remember back when there were, I remember this, I think it was 90, I'd have been like 96, 97, 98, around the time the chemtrails were first starting up. There was actually bus seats, or the bus boards that say, sick, call 1-800-I-GOT-FLU. Does anybody remember that campaign? 1-800-I-GOT-FLU. You know what that was? That was a gain of function exercise. And it was a gain of function exercise to test Tamiflu. See, Tamiflu is relatively new, but see, they wanted to test Tamiflu, and the way they did it is they released the flu in certain areas, and they started a campaign, and they said, oh. See, if you don't believe that if they do that, look at the Truckee brucellosis experiments that happened in Truckee at Truckee High School there in California near Lake Tahoe. They actually released brucellosis into the venting system. The teachers got it and they spread it. Brucellosis? Yeah, it is. It's very terrible. And you look at also the gain of function experiments they did in San Francisco, where they released another disease on the unsuspecting populace. And the only reason why they did that was because they wanted to monitor just how fast it would spread in California and whether or not San Francisco would be a vulnerable area for biological weapons attack. And they decided, yeah, it is. After all these people got sick, they said, yeah, it is.
So I thought community acquired could also mean that maybe this particular kind of pneumonia was transmittable.
Oh, yeah.
Because pneumonia normally isn't.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's probably what it meant. And remember, too, that last year, I think it was like 80,000 people died from the flu last year. At least that was the last count, 80,000. And that's pretty high, but the reason why they died was because the vaccine was ineffective because it was a force-multiplied strain that they weren't prepared for. So that tells me that if they weren't, because most of the time the CDC is well aware of what strain's coming out and they have a vaccine for it. Last year, they put out a vaccine knowing that it would not take care of the flu that was being released because it was a force-multiplied strain, genetically modified strain of the flu. This year, I wouldn't doubt that a worse one's coming. So, because that's how they operate. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, Clyde, a couple nights ago on one of your shows, a lady had called and was talking about all these CDC coming around to all these places, and it turned into some racial thing.
Okay.
I was more concerned about the actual event that she was talking about. Do you know anything?
What racial thing that she was talking about?
It turned.
Okay, your mic's breaking up.
Yeah, it turned into something racial, but it started off as her talking about her friend worked at the morgue, and all these people from the CDC were coming around finding out whether or not.
It was, and I read about this. They go into certain areas, and they ask, and in the Department of Homeland Security and the CDC, they go into certain areas and they ask, would you be ready if there was an influx of deaths in your morgue? What capacity do you have? They do this. They do spot checks. And they say, you know, what capacity do you have for morgues? If there was like something that happened here where 30,000 people were dead, would the morgues in the area be able to take the dead? Or how would hospitals respond to 30,000 people breaking out with, let's say, encephalitis? How would the hospitals be able to do that? They do that every once in a while. And what's creepy about that is that it makes you wonder why they're asking those questions. What are they preparing for? It's like when everybody was talking about the FEMA coffins, you know, for the longest time saying, what are these coffins? Well, they're coffin liners. And yeah, they have them at a place, and who knows what they're being used for or what they're going to be used for. But every time when I see these things, I say, don't panic, they're just preparing. But what they're preparing for is anybody's guess, okay? So, you know, that sort of thing happens all the time. In fact, they also set up things like AMOR tents in areas just to see if anybody can, you know, in a case of a major disaster, they move people into the tents and they're basically setting up morgues in tents for mass death and mega situations. They do it all the time. Certified emergency services, yeah. Yeah, response training. They do it all the time. And people get scared of it because usually, as was said before, when drills happen, they go real time. 9/11. It was a drill, but it went real time, and that's why people were confused. That's why it was so successful. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Clyde, how's it going?
Good.
So there was actually a report in the mainstream media about a team of researchers in the UK that essentially changed the DNA of mosquitoes and euthanized them. In a study that was not a sanctioned study.
Oxytec.
Yeah, I think that's who it was.
Yeah, Oxytec.
Where do you think that's going? Where do you think we're going with that?
I think that it's not foolproof, and I think that if you look at the Aegis aegypti strain that they've basically genetically modified, the genetically modified system is what happens is that for some reason the females are not capable of producing offspring because the offspring's heads are too small. So the offspring dies, and that's how they curb it. They do it genetically. But isn't it interesting that Zika was tied to microencephaly, where women would give birth to babies with small heads? It's kind of creepy. So, I mean, you look at genetically modified, I don't think genetically modified mosquitoes are a great idea, but then again, I'm not an epidemiologist. But remember, in that area that, what is that, Lugar Center in Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, they're testing diseases using mosquitoes. And the Russians are pissed off about it because they say those mosquitoes are getting over to Russia and they're making people sick. And they don't know what diseases they're contracting from those mosquitoes. Yeah, go ahead.
In conjunction with that, just a couple weeks ago, I had something too about the flu, but just a couple weeks ago, I was in a neighborhood and I got lost in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
There was a little, remember the old ice cream trucks, like a meter maid truck?
Yeah.
There was, and he was acting really weird too, because I had to turn around anyways, because I was lost in this neighborhood. They had like a little thing on the back of it, and on the back of the whole entire truck said mosquito testing. And this was just done in
Mosquito
Vancouver.
abatement, yeah, they do that, they test
And it
them.
was spraying and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, that stuff, yeah, stay clear of that stuff because it's NALED and it's not good for the body. It's called NALED. Usually they're testing NALED in these areas and it's not good for the body.
With the mosquitoes?
Yeah. Look up NALED. It's NALED, NALED. They used it for Hurricane Harvey and it causes a lot of problems for animals and for humans. It's really not good for you.
And also with that flu, I had a friend last year, he lives in this area, but he's a chemical engineer, and what's weird is that he, his entire company got flu shots to prevent against the flu, and they all got
the flu. Of course, yes, they did. And that happened with a lot of people. In fact, I would love to see, out of the 80,000 that died, how many of them got flu shots, and whether or not that combined to a binary system where it actually enhanced the flu. And the thing that's interesting that we found out about the flu, too, most of the people that died of the flu really didn't die of the flu, they died of pneumonia. Because they got the flu and it triggered a pneumonia that was not treatable with antibiotics. So think about that. It was a flu that transposed itself into a pneumonia. Shape-shifting disease. Last question.
Okay, the brothel in Houston.
Yes.
Robots.
Yes.
Is it the?
How do they clean the hole?
Is it the best one in Texas? Because they can. I smell a
It's the best little robo whorehouse in Texas.
A musical.
I'd like to see that musical. I think it'd be funny.
I wanted to follow.
Robo Dolly Parton. What?
If one of those robots figures out how to get pregnant.
That is just, I can't believe we're ending that way. Who's gonna clean the hole? Who's gonna take care of the robo baby? Oh no. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming out to the Ground Zero Lounge. Hey, my book's available here. If you want to buy my book, I'll sign it. We got all kinds of t-shirts and stuff. Helps the household a lot when that happens. So thank you so much for coming out. Stick around. We'll do karaoke. A lot of great beer, a lot of great times. We'll have a good socialized time. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you.